Okay, so the last long series I did, large series of works I did, were these textural abstracts that I started doing about 3 years ago when I was still having the gallery. And there were several reasons to go in that direction. One, I really liked the texture. I liked playing with abstract, and it was a really great way to make art without having to focus too much on detail, if that makes sense. And now I see that, well, I liked these, they were really popular, and I sold almost everything I created over the three abstract series I created. I did over 120 pieces of artwork in the 3 series, and I only have about 20 pieces of those left. So they were immensely popular, but I really like the idea now that I'm transitioning into a large series of landscapes for the Texas sort of scenery, because I think it'll challenge me a little bit more as an artist. Not that these weren't challenging to mix the different media together, but now I get to challenge myself in a completely new way, based on my surroundings and the places that I'm now exploring, and now that I have time to explore within our state. So I think both are valid, but I really like the fact that now I'm working from more of a personal experience sort of direction than a multimedia abstraction.
Yes.
Perspective. Now I'm going on places I've been, things I have experienced, and that creates an entirely different kind of artwork and gives you new avenues and more challenges to overcome and more opportunities to pursue within the artistic realm when you're, feeding off of your own experiences. I think that people can relate to that a lot. If you're pouring some of where you've been, what you've done, and moments of your own life into your art, I think it will be an interesting road to see where it takes me artistically.
That's right. I totally agree. Okay, so going from the abstract to the landscape, what other pieces do you have here? Some from Washington as well?
Yeah, the last drawings I did before I started on the wood burning were these little tiny graphite ones. And even those tiny ones, when I was working on graphite drawings last year, it was early in the year, probably January, February, I started noticing those problems with my drawing, that the drawings were coming out beautiful, but it was getting incredibly painful to create the drawing because I had this constant motion like this, and it just pretty much locked up my hands. And so that's one of the things that I'm grateful to the experience of learning how to wood burn, because now I get that love back that I had of drawing, but I don't have the pain associated with it that was crippling a year ago. So I'm not too sure I'm going to sell these two, because they're a good reminder to stick with what I'm doing now.
That's right.
And these were actually part of, a couple of years ago, I did this challenge. There was a challenge, 31 paintings in 31 days. Okay. And I did them all 11 by 14. And I had a really great time doing it. I'm not too sure I would do it again, because your artwork tends to come out a little rushed. But they were really popular, and a lot of them sold. I think I only have 5 or 6 left from that 31 paintings in 31 days. But some of them were based on, like this one was based on Terlingua. You probably recognize this image from I wood burned this image over on the table. Mm-hmm. There's another version of this. I've recreated this particular image probably 4 or 5 times. It's my favorite place to go in Terlingua. There's a cemetery there. in West Texas. Right before you get to Big Bend, there's a little ghost town named Terlingua, and they have a beautiful cemetery. The town was founded in the early 30s, I believe, as a mercury mine, actually, and a lot of the founders died of mercury poisoning. And the town has been bought and sold several times throughout the decades, but now it's kind of a tourist attraction. But every time I go there, I always go to this monument first and say a prayer for safe travel. Yeah. Thanks for getting me here alive, because it is a long trip.
That's it. This one to your left right here, this tall one.
Yeah, this is actually, I was playing with texture around the same time that I did this one. And I used newsprint and some acrylic paint, and then I used some oil pastels on top of it. And originally I had thought this was going to be a series of sorts, but it just never turned out that way. I just wound up hanging on to the painting.
Yeah, it's nice though.
But it was a good experiment. I've got several that I did with some newsprint behind it to give it some texture. But the problem with working with newsprint, it comes with its own set of challenges, because newsprint breaks down really easy. So it's kind of a temporary form of texture versus something like this. These started with a polymer-based paste, basically, that has marble dust in it, so that when it dries, it's hard as stone. You can sand it, you can paint on it, you can kind of do whatever you want to with it. So it's a much more permanent way to create texture than the paper is. So I veered away from the paper by the time I got to this. A few people keep asking me to go back to the paper texture, but it's when I do abstracts, but it's just so temporary. I don't know that I want to do that. It creates a cool effect, but it's also at the same time, you just have to know that your art is a lot more temporary when you do that. And this is another one that I did years ago when it's got a sister piece, Followers of the Light, which will be in the Round Rock show, actually. I'm fascinated by ancient cultures and Easter Island, the Moai. And so the other one will be in show in Round Rock for the Professional Artists of Central Texas show at Texas State Art Facility there on campus. So that one is much longer. It's this size. It's a 2 by 24 by 48, but it's a landscape. Gotcha. So same canvas, different direction.
Yes.
And I'm just going to keep working on the landscapes. Like right now, I'm going to keep working on the panoramic views. That's where I'm going with those, and creating some more wood burnings of the region. I'd like to have a solo exhibition. I have one scheduled for September, but I am looking for a space anywhere in Central Texas to have another solo exhibition this year. I'd like to do two to three solo exhibitions this year, because I already have 4 group exhibitions lined up.
Yes.
And I think it would be great. And we talked about challenging ourselves or holding ourselves accountable. Those are things that help me stay accountable to myself, because again, there's no one telling me I have to get up and make art. But if I know I have a show coming up, that gives me the drive to get up, make my art, do my framing, work on my book, work on my podcast, get those things done, because at the end of the day, there is a level of accountability out there. If I'm supposed to be in a show with people, I know I need to get my framing done.
Yeah.
If I know that my podcast is supposed to go out on Thursday night on Spreaker, then I'd better get my editing done.
What's the name of the podcast again?
The name of the podcast is Echoes in the Gallery. It is an art crime thriller. I am pretty obsessed with art crime. Next to drug trafficking, it actually comes in number 2 when you talk about scope of sequence with, counterfeiting, forgery, bootleg videos. All of those things constitute art crimes. So I'm very much interested in it. But my story is fiction. It sets place in San Francisco, starts in San Francisco, and then actually ends up here in Texas at the end of volume 1. So I hope you guys tune in.
Most definitely. So we just thank you for showing us what you had going on, and as well as the podcast, the book. I mean, you're busy, you've moved around, but you haven't changed as far as your work ethic goes and your creativity, and we appreciate that. So thank you for coming on the show. Lecture Ground, we're out.